NASA co-principals Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi and Wetang'ula will meet today to chart their political future after a turn of events that appears to have caught them flat-footed following Friday's Uhuru-Raila talks. And now it appears the opposition is headed for stormy days ahead after it emerged that opposition leader Raila Odinga may not attend today's meeting altogether.
Raila Odinga.
After 41 days of brushing off the coward's tag for skipping opposition chief Raila Odinga's controversial January 30th oathing ceremony, NASA co-principals Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi and Wetang'ula on Monday are set to turn their political bazookas on Odinga following his move to cooperate with his arch-rival President Uhuru Kenyatta.
People were asking where were we? And the message, I've put it very clearly, that we were neither consulted nor invited.
It was meant for those who were sworn in at Uhuru Park on the 30th of January and those who were sworn in Kasarani. So for anyone who missed Uhuru Park and missed Kasarani, please give us a break.
At the heart of the summit meeting is the fate of NASA's electoral reforms roadmap, which was to begin with a shake-up of electoral body IEBC before the commission presides over a boundaries review next year. This as part of what the coalition termed as the fight for electoral justice, which was to culminate in a major constitutional amendment with a likely referendum before 2022 to revert to a parliamentary system anchored on the infamous Bomas draft to reintroduce the position of Prime Minister and 2 deputies as a strategy to enhance inclusion and deflate political heat from future presidential polls. This, ODM insiders say, tops Odinga's own legacy quest and could have been the carrot dangled within Odinga's inner circle by Kenyatta's handlers, who are also faced with the difficult mission of reuniting the country after the acrimonious 2017 polls.
President Uhuru Kenyatta said, I want to leave a legacy of a united, cohesive society. So we were wondering, some of us, how is that possible? But until yesterday, we saw him meeting his arch-rival politically.
This is a truce between 2 individuals. We want Kenyans to have a genuine national dialogue.
But the Monday meeting could also mark the beginning of a tough balancing act for Kalonzo, Mudavadi and Wetang'ula, whether to heed the advice of their radical loyalists, demanding Odinga's ejection from NASA for the unilateral truce with Kenyatta, or to join the Odinga-Uhuru bandwagon. Shockwaves of the Friday meeting already igniting debate of likely radical changes to the 2022 political matrix.
A time has come for you now to make serious partnership with honest people. Raila is not honest. And I want to be marked. Raila, you are not honest. You have betrayed my party leader. You have betrayed me as your supporter.
Raila Odinga is a gentleman. He's a Mungwana, he's a gentleman. He has a debt to pay to William Ruto. William Ruto was one of the key leaders that propelled him to become a prime minister in 2007, 2008.
Now, with all indicators pointing to disquiet within the opposition, the NASA summit is evidently headed to a charged meeting whose outcome could dictate the compass for opposition politics within Kenyatta's final term. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News in Nairobi.
All right, as you've seen there, quite a number of mixed reactions with this coming together of President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. And like I mentioned, it's also the basis of our tweetable. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Quite a number of tweets coming in. Just tell me your thoughts really about this meeting. Do you think it's going to finally bring and start that conversation to do with national healing and cohesion? Talk to me. Hashtag is KTN News Center or at Betty M. Kello. Right now, I want to bring in my colleague, Murimi Mwangi. He had just prepared that story that you've just watched for us. But Murimi, thank you very much for joining us. Good morning. So, of course, there are quite a number of mixed reactions with this pact between the 2 long-term political rivals. But even before we get to that, let's talk about this meeting today. Are we sure, or do we have any hint whether Raila Odinga will be attending it?
Good morning, Betty. Well, I can confirm that the venue for that particular meeting, from the information we're getting from within the NASA coalition, is at Athi River. Besides that, I can confirm that 3 of the 4 core principals insist they will be attending that meeting, that being Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, as well as his Ford Kenya counterpart Moses Wetang'ula, and ANC's Musalia Mudavadi. The disquiet, of course, being whether Odinga will be attending that meeting in person or if he will be sending a representative. Remember, there have been reports within Odinga's inner circle that he was unaware that the core principals were to meet today. That, of course, even with the various leaders, party leaders of the 4 NASA founding parties insisting that the Monday meeting had been slated for even before the Friday meeting between President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition chief Raila Odinga. I spoke to Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka on Saturday, and he gave every indication that he would be attending the meeting happening today in Athi River. That, of course, being the basis upon which many questions within the NASA coalition in relation to the Friday meeting between Odinga and Kenyatta will be unraveled. Remember, it is a meeting that came much as a surprise within the NASA coalition and the ruling Jubilee Party, and therefore most of the elected leaders from these 4 NASA founding parties have been demanding for answers from their respective party leaders, and that, of course, set the basis upon which the meeting was to be held today before the various parties can now divulge that information later in the week. Tomorrow, there is set to be a parliamentary group meeting for the ODM party. On Friday, we understand that Kalonzo Musyoka will be leading a major meeting of key Ukambani leaders, elected as well as nominated and former leaders from the Ukambani region, and therefore the meeting today is one that is expected to set the pace for the country's political campus in the coming few days, and one which could have serious implications on the entire political structure in terms of how the opposition will proceed going forward, how President Uhuru Kenyatta's Jubilee camp will proceed as he continues to steer his second and final presidential term. Betty.
Right, Murimi, let's talk about that, the fact that there are quite a number of legislators and leaders who are quite uncomfortable with that meeting between Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta. Do we know if the majority, of the people who are uncomfortable, whether they come from ODM, do we have a number of legislators who, still coming from Raila Odinga's party, really feel like they were shortchanged in some way?
Well, most of the disquiet has been from the other 3 parties. Most of the ODM legislators have been calling upon the 3 core principals to join the new initiative by President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, including former hardliners that we have seen push the resist agenda, particularly within the ODM party, most of them saying it is time to let the 2 leaders steer the country in a different direction. But most of the confidence of the other core principals in a way have expressed, a disquiet, a feeling that they might have not been fully involved before that Friday meeting between President Uhuru Kenyatta and the opposition leader. But remember, there has been a justification coming from within Odinga's inner circle that among those that were arranging for that particular meeting, that the whole reason behind reducing the number of those that got to know of that meeting before it happened was to ensure that they reduce the number of potential roadblocks that would have been there to the new initiative, which, according to President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition leader Raila Odinga, is one that is meant to move the country away from the abrasive ethnic politics that have dominated the country's political scene throughout the 2017 electioneering season. And of course, it will be interesting to see how this new partnership will operate going forward. It was a promise from the 2 leaders that they would be setting up an office and maintain some advisors within that office to help implement their joint objective or their combined objective, that to include what comes in from the opposition side through Odinga, as well as that coming from President Uhuru Kenyatta's Jubilee side. And therefore, it will be an interesting time politically going forward, Betty.
Just talking about that office and all this, all the agreements that they came to. Of course, the reason why we are here largely is because of what Raila Odinga called electoral injustices and quite a number of issues to do with the electioneering period. So do we know if this thing still will be handled even with them coming together? Because one of the things and the lamentations that somebody like Musalia Mudavadi was saying was that, that we had a number of issues that needed to be sorted out. So with these two coming together, does that mean that these issues have been foregone?
Well, the two leaders talked of shared objectives, reading from what NASA had been pushing for before and what President Uhuru Kenyatta had insisted would be the basis of any dialogue with the opposition camp. You remember the opposition side had been pushing for what they called electoral justice, which was premised on the political events before and after the August 8th election, as well as the nullification of President Uhuru Kenyatta's initial win. That, of course, looking at the roadmap or the events that had been coming in from the opposition side, was to also include some serious constitutional changes to strengthen the police force, entrench independence of the judiciary, as well as enhance inclusion in future elections. And part of the strategy, as we mentioned in that report that you ran earlier, was to revert to a system of government that would deflate the heat from presidential elections. That, of course, has been talked about within political circles, the idea to revert to a parliamentary system of government. Remember, for President Uhuru Kenyatta, his people have been categorical that any such dialogue has to be within discussions to help him steer what he calls the big four, such areas as housing, industrialization, healthcare, as well as education. And therefore, if we are talking about shared objectives here, perhaps it will be interesting to see after the setting up of that particular office that the two leaders spoke about on Friday, whether it's going to incorporate these two shared objectives from the NASA camp as well as the Jubilee side, and how that is going to happen going forward, because there's also the idea to, change different sections of the law, and that, of course, would also need, input from the other arm of government, which is Parliament, and Parliament has representation from not only Odinga's ODM party and President Uhuru Kenyatta's Jubilee party, but also from legislators from the other parties that are part of the opposition wing. That's to include Wiper, ANC, and Fort Kenya. And that's why perhaps Musalia Mudavadi had been categorical before that the meeting on Friday, in a way, according to what he was able to gather from within his ANC party, appeared not to reflect the whole face of the NASA summit. And that's partly why he said they would be asking for those answers from Odinga as the summit meets today, whether he turns up for that meeting or sends a representative, or if the explanation coming in from that particular meeting will be conclusive, is a matter of wait and see. The meeting, we understand, is set to start from 11, Betty.
Right. Timuri Mwangi there reporting from our City Center studio, just giving us really the highlights of what happened on Friday. Of course, that coming together with Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. And of course, today, looking forward, we're waiting to see just what's going to happen and develop with that meeting. Like Moremi has just mentioned to us, it's going to be happening in Athi River. That's NASA Leaders Summit. It's also